Okay, so let's talk about Bitcoin's massive energy consumption. But we're going to do it by looking at something that seems totally random: reindeer mating habits. Seriously, you heard me right.
I know. On one hand, you've got this ancient biological ritual playing out in the Arctic. On the other, a high-tech digital process happening on servers all over the world. They seem like they're from different universes. But what if I told you they run on the exact same playbook? A playbook all about competitive waste. And it's the absolute key to understanding why Bitcoin burns so much power. All right, let's start with the side of the analogy we can all kind of picture. The wild world of nature, and the incredibly intense competition between male reindeer. So in biology, there's this concept called costly signaling. A male reindeer can't just walk up and say, "Hey, I'm the strongest, pick me." No way. He has to prove it. And how does he do that? By growing these enormous, heavy, and honestly, super impractical antlers. Think about it. Those things are a huge burden. They take a staggering amount of energy just to grow and carry around. They are a physical, undeniable signal that he is so fit, so successful at finding food, that he can afford to waste a ton of energy on this ridiculous, flashy ornament.
So let's just break down that cycle. It all kicks off with energy in. The reindeer has to eat a ton of food. Then that energy gets converted into a show of work, and in this case, that's the literal growth of those giant antlers. That work is what allows him to win the competition against rivals with smaller, less impressive antlers. And finally, he gets the reward. He gets to mate. The antlers aren't just for show or fighting. Their very existence is proof of the incredible amount of energy he can afford to just throw away.
Okay, so you've got the reindeer part down. Now let's jump from the frozen tundra to the digital world and see how this exact same logic is the foundation of the entire Bitcoin network. It's kind of shocking how similar it is.
Bitcoin, it operates in what's called a trustless environment. That just means you have no idea who anyone else is. So how can the network possibly trust that a new batch of transactions is legitimate? Well, a miner has to prove they have skin in the game. They can't just raise their hand and say, "I did the work, trust me." They have to show cryptographic proof that they spent real-world resources, a whole lot of computing power and electricity, to find the right answer.
And this is where it gets really wild. Look at how perfectly this cycle mirrors the reindeers. The energy in for a Bitcoin miner is a massive amount of electricity. The show of work is performing trillions of ridiculously complex calculations every single second. This intense effort allows one miner to win the competition, to be the very first one to solve the puzzle and confirm a block of transactions. And for all that work, they get the reward, brand new Bitcoin. It's the same pattern.
So here it is, the big reveal. These two systems, which seem so completely different on the surface, are basically running on the exact same fundamental algorithm. It's an algorithm built entirely on a competitive arms race.
We can call this the arms race principle. And it doesn't matter if it's playing out in biology or in computer code. It's a kind of evolutionary struggle. The winner isn't always the smartest or the fastest. Not really. The winner is the one who can afford to sink the most resources into the game, the one who can prove their commitment by showing they can sustain the highest cost. That's what makes their signal believable and trustworthy.
And this table just lays it out perfectly. Look at the parallels. For reindeer, the resource is food energy. For Bitcoin, it's electrical energy. The signal for the reindeer is its huge antlers. For a miner, it's the finished computation. The goal? Mating rights versus transaction rights. And the ultimate outcome is the most important part. For reindeer, it leads to survival of the fittest. For Bitcoin, it leads to the security of the entire network. The massive energy use isn't a bug or a side effect, it is the security feature.
So after comparing a global digital currency to reindeer looking for a mate, what's the big takeaway here? Why does this strange analogy actually matter so much?
It all comes down to this. When you hear people criticizing Bitcoin for how much energy it uses, they're often missing the fundamental point. From the perspective of the system's design, that energy consumption is the security model. It's the price you have to pay to create digital trust without a central authority like a bank looking over everyone's shoulder. The bigger and more costly the antlers are, the more secure the whole network becomes. You have to admit, it's a pretty wonderful analogy, right? It takes a really complex technical problem and reframes it as a biological one that we can just get. But it also brings up a really serious question for the future. See, in nature, evolution eventually finds some kind of balance. But these new digital arms races, they're moving at the speed of technology, not the slow pace of nature.
So the real question we're left with is this. Can we figure out a more efficient, a more sustainable way to create digital trust? Or are we just locked into an energy arms race that could take a very, very long time to rein in?